Hi everybody, Chris here from Truly Holistic. Now in this video we're going to talk about the 5 elements. Now quite often people can call them elementals as well. So the 5 elements I'm referencing is in order: earth, air, water, fire and ether. Now we do a clearing within our session work, which is to imprint a certain element on a certain area that needs it. Because when we look at the elements in the way that Truly Holistic facilitates that energy makeup, they're an energy makeup of your self as an infinite consciousness. So I'm going to bring a visual representation of yourself, which is called the Ascension map, right? Because the word ascension, right, which is quite often used in spiritual consciousness realms or communities, is an expansion of consciousness, right? And a lot of people believe that will result from an event that will happen outside of you. And what I really want to emphasize with that is a viewpoint from the mind, because the mind externalizes our viewpoint on reality. It kind of takes us off a road and starts us believing into things that are then perceived out of our control, which is I kind of see as a trap. I see it as kind of the dangling the carrot that people will wait for or chase over a lifetime. When really all there is the now, right? We've never been to the past, we've never been in the future, we've never made a choice in the future, we've never made a choice in the past. And our life, our reality is based on how we apply our energy through the choices we made. And every choice we've ever made is always done in the now, right? So the whole idea that we're waiting for something to occur is ridiculous, because what you infinitely and authentically are is an infinite consciousness already. It's more about connecting into it and knowing the means to connect into something that you already are. So our viewpoint at Truly Holistic is that this exists inside you, within. Because what do we learn in the spirituality consciousness realms and the gurus? What's a constant? And the constant is the importance of being present, being in the now, being in the moment. And that is a journey inward, within, not going out, right? The mind is what tells you to go out. But that's a manipulation, that is a distraction, that is not real, okay? It's not what is, okay? Because everything bound and connected to the moment and now is what is. And when we navigate away from that, which is what the mind does, we are stepping into what isn't instead of what is, okay? Or remaining with what is. Now, when you look on this map, so this is a map, and you can see it's depicted as a tree, right? And you can also see that we've color coded it, right? So because this video is about the elements, right? And you can see in green, and it's also got earth, right? So this is the reality we are here, experiencing a reality, a life on earth, okay? And our heart has a synergistic symbiotic relationship with the earth, right? In English language, all the letters that make up the word heart make up the word earth, right? It starts with the H in the word heart because it begins with the heart, right? That's because that's how you got here. The heart is your portal, your pathway that got you here as a soul consciousness to have a experience. And that experience ends here when that heart stops beating, right? Our existence here is bound to a beating heart. Heart's everything, the key of everything. Now, so that is the earth element, right? Okay, and then the next step is the air element, which you can see in white, right? Which makes up the trunk of the tree and those other branches that veer off to other realities. Now, the word generation on there means reality, right? Or you could see there's another universe, because you're multi-reality, you're multiversal, your energy signature that makes you is spliced amongst different realities, okay? In fact, when you go to sleep at night and you dream, and you know how dreams are somehow connected to you, but a little bit weird and different, it's because you're becoming counsel to other versions or variants of you of that same energy signature, but in other realities. And then when you're awake and they're asleep, they become your guide. Even though we're saying they become your guide, it sounds weird because it's really you, because they all share the same energy signature. Okay? So it's air, right, which is the trunk. And then we get to the base, right, the roots of the tree, which is water, right, which is the source of that energy signature, right? Just like a tree, right? The source of that tree, right, where it's going to get its nutrients, like we're talking about energy here, is the roots of the tree. And then we've got, the first layer of the soil is fire element, and then deeper down, ether. Okay, so that's why I want to say it in that order, because we are directly our experience here, right? Because our journey is to go within. Starts with earth, then it goes to air, water, fire, ether. Okay. So let's go to the next one here. This one here, all right? And what each element stands for. So we're going to start with earth. As I showed, I had to showcase that, right? It's in step one. We want to start with earth. And what the earth element teaches us is to ground, right? Now, a lot of people watching this will immediately be aware of how grounding is connected to the word earthing, right? That when we go barefoot on the earth, most nerve endings are on the bottom of our feet. We absorb the negative ionization, which is the good ionization, from the crust of the earth, right? And how the earth gains that is through lightning bolts hitting the crust of the earth. The crust of it absorbs the ionization, and then we absorb it into our system, our body, which actually allows the body to become an open circuit, right? So it can let go of an accumulation of, let's say, positive ionizations, which is not the good stuff for us. That's what creates inflammation in the body. It can be then let go of, and negative ionizations replaces that. Where if we're not earthing or grounding, then we accumulate more and more energy that's not us. Now, where we go even further at Truly Holistic, right? I always say to my clients, we're either facilitating what we are or we're embodying what we're not, all right? And that comes down to what's guiding your process, right? Because, as I said, our heart is synergistically connected to this place, and it's what facilitates what we are. But the problem is, as humans, the humanity is forged by the mind, not by the heart. And each human, right, that goes through the school and becoming a human, right, those first 7 years of life, that curriculum is built by the mind. So therefore, that person for the rest of their life will use the tools of mind, thought, mentality in the way they perceive and process their life, which is a problem because it disconnects you from what you are infinitely and authentically. Which means it doesn't teach you your natural state, which is to be grounded. So the original ground is to get your heart open and to allow you to lead yourself from the heart, not in the head, mind, thought, mentality. When we're up here, we remove our ground, which means we start to embody what we're not, right? All these discordant fields and energies, our circumstance, our situation, things outside of us, Wi-Fi, 5G, all these sorts of things, instead of facilitating what we are that exists within us by an open heart, right? So earth element teaches us to get the door open, and that door is to get the heart open and start utilizing it and allowing the heart to be involved in everything we do. That's ground. Next one, right, is air, right, as I showed you on that Ascension map. Now, that teaches us self-awareness, to become self-aware, right? Now, this is interesting with air, because when we talk about air, we're talking about the breath, and a lot of people use breath work, and especially in regards to regulating the body and regulating the nervous system. Regulate means to bring it into balance, because a downside with being mind, thought, mentality driven as the human, we live through the nervous system, which means we become a live wire, and we get very influenced and affected through, and we get triggered because our nervous system starts to get accumulated with all these energies that are not our own to be carrying. Okay. And we allow the nervous system to control us, right? And I've recently done posts where I show a nervous system when it's stripped away from the body with the eyes attached to it, it looks like an extraterrestrial. Well, what happens when we're up here and we allow the nervous system to control? We don't feel like we belong here. We're not connected to the heart because it's the earth, because the heart is what synergistically connects to the earth. Which means, what does extraterrestrial mean? That we don't belong here. That becomes our experience, right? Anyway, so with ear, right? Let's go to meditation, right? One of the conceptual principles of meditation, right, is one, to close our eyes, which is to remove our attention on these outside variables, right? So it can't go anywhere. We just stay here, right, and present, which allows us to get into our heart more. But the second one is to focus on the breath, right? Breath work. Now, when we focus on the breath, which is our airway, right, we regain our self-awareness. Because when we're in mind thought mentality, which is to externalize, which the mind tells us we need to be aware of what's going on out here, we lose our self-awareness, which means we lose sight of our choices and we lose sight of where our energy's going, which means something else is now navigating and controlling how you apply your energy. And a lot of times it navigates and directs your energy to an avenue, which will then become the blocks, the obstructions, the congestions that get in your way. And because you're up here, you believe, oh, it's because of that person or that. No. They're there because it's bound to your energy. You lost your self-awareness. Okay. So self-awareness is important because it's about you. You're not missing something. You're not needing something out here. You need to reconnect and understand who you are. You need to become self-aware of how you're applying your energy through choices that are bound to a momentary process. They are the foundation, the baseline of everything. Self-awareness is a key. That's consciousness. Okay. The next one, water. Now, before I go there, I mentioned about air and airway, right? So I'm just going to go back to, just remember that, right, air, and we're going to go back to the last one. Right, air, the white up there, that's connected to all these other versions of you and other realities, which we could perceive as, because they're guides, right? When they're asleep and we're awake, they are our higher self, right? They are guiding us the way, air way, right? Directly connected into it. How about that? And plus, airway, right? And ears are mostly the makeup of that tree. What are our lungs? An upside down tree in the body. How about that? That's symbology. Again, it's all about simplicity. Okay, the mind won't show us that way. The heart will. Always does. Next one, water. Right? And what water shows, water is the physical embodiment of flow. Right? Which teaches us to go with the flow. Right? Because if we're in our natural state, right, and we're in our heart, which means to feel our way, not think our way. When we feel our way, we can only be directly connected to our present experience. We can't go any further than that, which allows us to remain present, which allows us to just simply go with the flow. And when our process is going with the flow, we're in the flow. That is what's reflected in our physiology. And do you know what? Our physiology loves when everything's flowing. Right? When we look into, well, illness, doesn't matter what it is, any illness. Do you know what illness, what state forges and enables illness? When we lose our flow. When we're either got congested flow, obstruction to that flow, or blockage to that flow. Heart disease, the number one killer of humans. What takes someone out? A heart attack. What's that? An obstructed artery. Obstruction of blood flow to the heart. A blockage. What's the problem? They say breast cancer. Usually congestion of lymph in the chest area, which is a lack of flow. And what means then, if there's a lack of flow, things start to sit in the body for too long and they accumulate. What's that? Toxicity. Okay. Doesn't matter what system in your body. It comes down to there's a problem when there's a congestion, obstruction, or blockage of flow. Neurological conditions, when neurons can't communicate to further neurons, there's an obstruction of that flow of communication. That's a problem, right? So flow's everything. It's important. Flow is everything, and I mean that. So our natural state is a state of being, right? This is why we're classified as human beings, which is really to be a human that presents a state of being. That's what it really represents in its true authenticity. But the problem is we're classified as human beings, but the first 7 years of how we become a human, that curriculum, by becoming a human is to embody the mind, but the mind doesn't present our natural state. It actually is the very thing that causes the congestion, obstruction, or blockage to the flow. So we become a human being that doesn't know how to be. Okay. So flow, everything. Okay. Next one. Fire. Okay. And what fire represents is renewal, right? Like the phoenix rising up from the flames, right? Now, the most common experience you'll ever have with that element in regards to the body is a fever. The fever is a representation of the fire element. Now, let's look at when we get a fever, right? Science, medicine, which are all interpretations from the mind, not from the heart, right? So they have a lack of knowing and understanding of what's going on, what the representation of it is. Yes, we see it as that. I can say this because I worked in the medical field for 12 years. How many medical studies and papers I've read where it's always like this, the summary, this is what we saw, all observation. This might mean this may mean, riddled with that word might or maybe. That's not certainty, which emphasizes they see things, but they don't know why they see it, which is a lack of knowing and understanding. The mind will never present those answers, the heart will, okay? When you facilitate more of yourself as an infinite consciousness, these elements are a makeup of that, okay? So when you have a fever, medicine and science will say, oh, that's because you have a pathogen in your system, right? A bacteria or something like that. That's not the case. That's not the original reason why the fire element gets involved. When the fire gets involved is because your body has got to such a degree of congestion, right? It's lost its flow badly. It needs to come in and present a flooding of flow of the energy through the system to turn it around and get you back to a more balanced state. Okay. But it's going to do it really quickly. Okay. And you're not going to feel very good while that happens because there's a lot of toxicity that's now getting dumped out of certain areas of the body into your bloodstream, and that generally doesn't make you feel very good. Okay. It's like, right, when we do a cleanse, right, like liver gallbladder flush, right? You go through the week drinking apple juice, and then it comes to the weekend, you do the Epsom salts and olive oil and all that, and that's what really gets the liver really releasing and letting go of that accumulation toxicity in it, right? Which, and then you're on the toilet for the weekend, you feel like you could die, but you were the one that made the intention to do the cleanse, so you know that you're doing it for good reasons, right? The light in the tunnel, the light at the end of the tunnel is that you're cleansing, and getting rid of this garbage out of your liver. But you don't feel very good while it's happening, right? Now, it's the same thing with any cleanse or detoxification, because a cleanse and a detoxification is this: bringing flow to an area that was once congested, okay? So when fire does that, right, in regards to a fever, that's what it's trying to do. It's trying to get your body back into a flowing, balanced state, okay? I know that because these elements, right, when I come back to this here, I make tensor products, right? I make energy products that facilitate the energetics of these elements, right? When I first made a pyramidal tool, which we call the I Am Everything pyramid, which has the earth element in it, has the air element in it, has the water element, it had the fire element in it. And this was relatively new, the fire element energetics that I found, this cubic measure that I made the legs of the pyramid in. And I'm always the guinea pig when I make all these products before I put it out there for other people to utilize, right? And so I put my name under this pyramid. I must have left it there for quite a few days. And all of a sudden I was starting to get fever symptoms, right? And I was just heating up, and I was just, wow, I feel like I'm going for a fever. But I didn't have like any of the other symptoms of having, an infection or anything like that. I was like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden my son was going through the same symptoms. I was like, what is going on? So when I went in my treatment room and I saw the pyramid, I was like, maybe that's doing it. And when I looked at it in greater detail, I realized the pyramid was up on one level with my name under it, but directly underneath was a photo of my son. We took my name out, took the photo of him out. Within an hour or two, we came right. That day, I learnt what a fever was, really what a fever is, and the power of the fire element. It's very powerful in the way it cleanses, detoxifies, because it's all about renewal, right? Burning the attachments, the dependency, the things that are causing the congestion, the blockage, the obstruction, to bring flow, which is your natural state. So that's the fire element. Pretty cool. Then lastly, the ether element. And a lot of people don't know much about the ether element. For a lot of people, it's very mysterious. For me, as it's the last one, right, on the Ascension map, the ether stands for new beginnings. And for me, that's Ascension, right? Because we're here to fulfill our soul's purpose. We came here as the soul first, but then we became the human from the mind. The mind intervened, as it does in each moment, right? Because what we feel, right, when somebody says our gut instinct, it means it's there like that. Something we're experiencing, we have a feeling, we feel into it directly. It doesn't need time. We have a discernment immediately. Because that tells me what we feel, right, from our natural state is directly connected to our experience. It's a constant. Thought isn't. Thought always arrives second. It always has to intervene, which tells me it's not directly connected to what we are and to our experience. It intervenes to sidetrack us in the way that we perceive and process something, right? So when that occurs, then we don't fulfill our soul's purpose, which is ascension. But, right, we could, if we look at, as I said, life is a momentary process. But if we looked at the now as the infinite now, right, that it's just one now, but it's infinite. We could see every moment as the 0 point it is, because it is. And in that 0 point, we can have a new beginning in every moment, as long as we perceive it like that. And we stay in our heart, we stay present. We stay directly connected and self-aware. All these, for me, ether is an accumulation of all the other tools we've learned, right? To ground ourselves, to become self-aware, to go with the flow, renew. And the result of that is new beginnings, right? That we realize that in each and every moment, the infinite now holds infinite possibilities and potential for ourselves, right? Because the thing is, when we are in our infinite authentic self, right, on that ascension map, that is facilitated through the heart, not the mind, okay? Right? And as I said, if we go back to the elements, the mind removes your ground. The mind removes your ability to be self-aware. The mind removes your ability to flow. It congests, obstructs, and blocks. The mind doesn't allow to renew. And hence, it doesn't provide your ascension. Right? Because the mind uses mentality, right? So what's mentality? What is presented in front of us, we compare it to something that's happened in our past. So we allow our past, where our health problems originated from, where our traumas originated from, to continually influence us and influence our choices we're making now, to create our next experience to reflect our past, which means we are stuck. We're on a treadmill where we feel like we're getting somewhere, but we're still in the same spot. Is that new beginnings? No. Everyone that comes to me for a session, what do they all have in common? They want change. Now, if we are a mind thought mentality and we create a remanifesting loop out of mentality, we're creating more of the same. That means no change. That means no new beginnings. Because the moment is a 0 point as long as we see it as a virgin experience. We don't compare it. We don't connect it to the past. We see it as what it is, brand new. Not probability through mentality, but possibility. And that is all reliant on being in the heart, not the mind. Okay. So these are the things that we teach. These are the things we apply in our sessions. Reality coaching, but also in a line of product, and I'm going to show you that now. This is called the Elements Tensoring set, right? So you can see you get all of this as part of that set, right? If you want to be self-empowered, enlightened, to provide that for yourself, or let's say you're a practitioner for your clients, which you can use this for your clients. I've got people that already do that bought this set. You get a laminated copy of the Ascension mat, right? You also get a semicircle chart, like for dowsing, whether you're using a pendulum or dowsing rods or want to use muscle kinesiology, to know which element you need, and you might need a bunch of them. You also get this one here, which teaches you that when you get more into your heart, right, which is to facilitate more of the makeup of what you are as infinite consciousness, which are those 5 elements, it provides an expansive field, which is more energy flow and more flow to the body, which are the very tools that enables rejuvenation, regeneration, and healing, and to keep your body clean. It's a self-regulating, cleansing, detoxification process, just through providing your natural state. But as you can see on here, when you're in the mind, it collapses the field. It does the opposite, which is to make you understand that you're now closing off the very tools that's going to support your body. You're putting everything against your body, which promotes illness. Okay. Now you'll see I'll use the word levity. Now the Latin word for levity means light. Right? You're facilitating your light through your heart. Plus, to levitate's to go up, to ascend is to go up. So it's directly aligned with the meaning of ascension. Now, mind is more associated with gravity. Gravity in Latin means heaviness. When we're in more mind thought mentality, we feel like, oh my God, I feel like I've got the weight of the world on my shoulders, pressure on my chest, feel lethargic through the body, because that's all based on illness. That's gravity. Okay. Why is science gravity this, gravity this, gravity? Because science is a mind-orientated process or sector, right? Let's come back to this. So you get those charts. You get the rings. Now, each one of those rings is one of the elements. So the biggest ring on the outside, that is the ether element. The next one within that is the fire. The next one, the one in the middle of those 5, is the earth element, right? The next one and going in from that is the water element, and the smallest one is the air element. So you get the set of the 5 rings that you can apply to a certain area of the body, or just put it on the ring and get that person to stand on it, which facilitates a certain element makeup of their consciousness through. You can also use your own intention through the rings, apply intention notes, do all sorts of different types of healing. So wonderful system, wonderful healing system. It's fantastic. So if you are interested in getting that, go to my product store at trulyholistic.net/products/elements tensor ring set. You'll see that there. As I say, if you would like to book a reality coaching session or a healing session, go to my appointment page at trulyholistic.net/appointments/. Now, if you really enjoyed this video, would like to see more like this, remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, push the notification bell so you can be notified when the next video drops. Until next time, catch you later.